So this is Mike Farley, Poolside Perspective Podcast, and we just wanted to welcome everybody here today. We're going to dive into another exciting episode and talk about all things about luxury outdoor living and pools and everything you can find in the backyard. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Mike Farley. I've been in the industry for 35 years, been designing as a landscape designer, was a licensed landscape architect in California for 45 years. And so, but specializing in pools and outdoor living for the last 35. So
I'm Trey Farley. Yeah, I've been in the industry for 6 years. 4 of those years was in construction, particularly the back end of construction. And the last 2 have been in design, working and shadowing my dad. So, yeah.
Well, it's definitely fall now.
Yes, it is. It's not summer, that's for sure.
So it was wonderful this morning to go on a walk, and me and Max had a great time this morning walking around, and it wasn't 95 degrees, so it was great. So I hear that fall has arrived to a lot of places. I heard Phoenix is celebrating their first not 100 degree day, and
that's cool.
We're not having our 90 degrees day. So anyway, it's a great time of year to enjoy outside.
Oh yeah,
because in the summer we have pools because we have to cool off. Because it's so hot and intense outside. But this time of year, it's great. You can, cook out, you can eat out, you can, hang out. It's a wonderful time of the year to enjoy everything that we create in your backyard. You can still enjoy the pool too.
Yes, you can.
So, if you have to have it really warm, you might heat it slightly, but, or you can be enjoying the hot tub. But we're going to talk about today is something that's integral for all those spaces, or, possibly you may be looking for that, and that's some kind of shelter. And there's a lot of different shelters that we can look at.
A lot of different shelters for mainly coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for people to be under. And so one of the number one requests I get is I want an outdoor kitchen.
Okay.
And when I want an outdoor kitchen, most people in Texas do not want that out in the open.
Yeah, typically when we see a job we're walking on, a lot of the times a builder of a house, if it's new construction, they're going to have the basic grill right on the side of the covered patio if they have one, where it's barely even on the side, where you barely get any vintage.
Right. What's really cool is when we do an outdoor kitchen outside, most people don't want it just out in the elements. They want some protection. Now, a lot of new homes, they may have the kitchen on the back porch, but a lot of times they don't have it on the back porch either, and they want us to incorporate it somewhere else because they want the porch space for living, like dining and living room areas. But anyway, we're going to talk about some different structures and come up with, see what the winner is. So we've got 3 different contenders today.
Yes.
So we've got the Ramada, as Kevin used to always call them. They say that's what they call them in Arizona. So we call them cabanas here.
Oh, okay. I had no idea what you were saying.
Yeah.
I was like, Ramada, what is that?
It's the Ramada Inn.
I thought I was briefed on what we were talking about. We're throwing in a curveball.
So, yes. But we call them cabanas here in Texas, and I'm sure they call them other things in other places, but we're talking about a solid roofed structure that's generally open on 3 to 4 sides. There's usually not a lot of enclosure with this. So that's contender number 1. And who else are we going to bring to the plate here?
We have louvered structures as well. There's many different products out there. We typically work with Equinox and then Apollo as well.
Right.
We'll speak on those specifically just because we work with those a lot more often, but feel free to comment down below any opinions or perspectives you have as well. That's the whole reason we do this podcast, is for information. So
when you say louvered,
louvered.
So somebody that doesn't know what we're speaking of, how would you describe that?
So you'll have some kind of, lack of better words, louver, or I guess shades like on a blinds for a window on the roof, so they can open up and be like a pergola, or they can close completely. And the products we work with are completely rainproof, waterproof, so it's enclosed so you can be out there while it's raining.
Yeah.
be, sheltered from the elements.
Okay, so we have everything from full sunlight to
Yep.
partial shade to full rain protection.
Yep. Those are a little bit more costly typically just because of the electronics function and it's metal.
Right. So, and then we have an arbor. So now what I call an arbor and other places in the country, they'll call them pavilions instead of an arbor. And I heard a definition that an arbor was a little garden structure, like an arched thing or something that you put a swing on. That can be an arbor structure, but I'm talking about something that covers a large patio area. That's what we call an arbor here.
Yeah.
But in other parts of the country, I know they call them pavilions as well.
That's
so
interesting.
Because
when I think of a pavilion, I'm thinking of like back when I was in school, they would always have like pavilions around like a park area, and it was a complete solid roof.
Right.
What we're talking about usually has that grid pattern in it.
So usually pieces of wood spaced, 2 to 4 inches apart, and creates a percentage of shade.
Yeah.
Type situation. Typically, built of wood, redwood, cedar. Depends on what wood is good in your particular area that holds up to not being decayed, and usually is a stained structure, although some are painted too to match architectural styles of the home. So anyway, those are the 3 contenders do we have. So do you have a favorite?
So on one of the jobs you did with the Colorado boulders, I think that created a new love for pergolas for me because it's a massive area. It's huge square footage, double kitchen, sunken kitchen, and they had the we didn't touch on this, but what's that plastic overlay called again?
Okay, so polygal.
Polygal, yeah. It has that on top as well, which kind of rainproofs that area, and I love that setup, having it weatherproof and having that aesthetic where the sun just bleeds in.
And that's all built of wood. So you prefer a wood appearance, like a stain type situation over something that's painted?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Polygal is a material that can be put on top of a arbor, or, the slats on the top. And you can put that on and basically butt these pieces together. And then there's a piece of trim work that goes over the joint, and it creates a fairly waterproof situation. So I always hesitate to say waterproof because, if you leave your precious homework that you're working on and it comes a rain and then now it drips on your homework, and you're going to say the pool guy said it was waterproof. So anyway, it's a nice structure. Now, there's one thing you have to think about when you use polygal.
What's that?
Is it can't be flat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's got to be pitched in a certain direction to direct the flow of water.
Yeah.
And so the challenge that you have with this is you have to decide which direction you're pitching it. So it's a challenge if the structures, like we did a project down in University Park that we used the same material.
Yeah.
And it was up against the house. So we couldn't pitch it back towards the house.
No.
Okay. The other thing is because it's up against the house, you can easily see the beams lining up with all the brick masonry. And if you pitched it to one side, then it's going to look crooked.
Yeah.
So we only could pitch it one other way, which was into the pool.
Yes.
So because of the tight proximity on this structure literally went from the edge of the pool to the building. And that one was also wood. It was stained, a custom stain color to match the stain on the posts of the porch. And so that gave a really nice look and blended with the architecture and gave them the solution that they wanted, is they wanted to sit out and have a dining area that they wouldn't be rained on.
Yeah.
So
it's a perfect situation. And some people might say, well, you don't want to pitch it to the pool because then you're going to contaminate the water with the rainfall. I would personally say when it get a heavy rain where this is an issue, you're going to have to balance those chemicals anyways because of the rain in general. And we always have overflow on our pools too. So
And in some parts of the country, they actually, that is a recommended practice because it's called rain harvesting.
Yeah.
So what they want to do is capture the rain. In fact, they'll pitch the decks into the pool, but this is a total side issue.
Yeah.
But rain harvesting is encouraged in a lot of different areas. And so, but in some areas, we want to pitch the water away. So there's different things to think about. So your favorite would be the arbor to start with. Now, the pros of that particular structure is it's probably the most cost-effective structure.
Oh, okay.
And so it can fit in a lot of different people's budgets, a lot more friendly than others. The other thing that's really cool is it can be attached up against a house, and you don't have to worry about what's above it because it's not real tall.
Yeah.
It's basically about the height of the beam, the post, plus about 2 feet of wood. And so therefore you can usually work it in between the first floor and the second floor. So you don't have to worry about blocking like windows up above or something along that line.
Yeah.
The other thing is a lot of times it will work with the architecture of the home better than if we came in and tried to do something with a pitched roof and the pitch doesn't match the other pitches. And, again, you're blocking windows and things like that. So an arbor is really advantageous.
Yeah. One thing to be aware of, because I know we've done this with the city and we checked. Some people, if you put the polygal on it, they don't care. They just count as an arbor. And so that might not work against what's the word?
Permeability?
Yeah, permeability. And then if some cities will count that against it because then it's a solid roof structure in their opinion. So it does vary. You have to check with the city.
And there's different codes for non-covered structures like an arbor versus some covered structures. And when you put the polygal on top, yes, sometimes it does change the requirements. So
yeah,
you need to be aware of that on the front end. So when you're designing it, you make sure you have the proper setbacks and
or you make sure your designer does their homework.
Yeah. When you do a structure like that, the posts that support it could be a lot of different things. So typically you're going to see a wood post.
Yeah.
Sometimes these posts are just like a 6x6, although sometimes with a 6x6, it doesn't seem like there's enough mass to support this whole roof structure and it seems a little out of scale. And so sometimes people will do larger posts like 8x8 or a 10x10 or a 12x12. Those are things that you can look at, or some people will do masonry.
Yeah.
So with a masonry post, we could tie in possibly some masonry that's on the house, whether it be brick or stone. Although it's kind of interesting, a lot of people, when we get into these structures, they like the stone here in Texas, and they don't have any stone on the back of their house. It's all brick because the stone was only at the accents, like at the front door or maybe the fireplace inside the house. But, we can still pull those things together.
You always could use a little less and just do a boot for
So what's a boot?
So a boot is going to be, so if we're doing stone, masonry stone, it would go up, 36 inches about. And it's just pretty much to wrap around the column of the wood post to give it more of a grandiose, bigger just look.
Okay. Now, one thing that's nice also with a boot, if it's 36 inches, is you end up the height of a countertop.
You put your cup on it.
Yeah, so it's a nice small table, mini table.
It really does help, though, if you have an area where you have a grill and you have a little bit of kitchen space, but not a lot, and maybe that space isn't have a full table or anything. So it does add a little bit of counter space for cups.
Yeah. So those, I usually do 36, like Trey mentioned. Sometimes I'll do, if its structure is really tall, I'll do 42, which ends up being like a bar height. The one thing that I never want to do is a 24-inch one.
Seat height.
Right. And the reason why is when you're walking around, you don't see it in your peripheral vision.
Ooh.
And you just bang your shin on the thing as you're walking around the post because you think you got around it, and that masonry just jumps out and bites you.
That's a hazard.
Yes. So that's why I know there was a point in time in my career that a lot of people used to do them like 18 and 24 inches. And I was like, those hurt.
Those aren't a boot. That's a shoe.
Yeah. So the other thing that you want to think about if you do some type of column is it does give you the advantage of running your conduit inside the masonry to get up for a ceiling fan and some lights.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to strap the conduit on the side of the post. But if you're not going to do that, one of the things you want to think about is where you're going to locate that conduit so it's not as visible for the users that are using the space.
This often comes up when we're talking about like a shear descent or not a shear descent, but a shear rain or some kind of water feature off the lip.
Yeah, if we're running water up there as well.
Yeah.
So the one thing also to think about is if you're doing fans and electrical, and what really looks bad is you might be able to hide the conduit, but if you have to put switches in,
ooh, yeah,
then you've got this big box sitting there, and it looks really bad. So that's where a boot or a stub column, as some people call them, is really nice because you can hide all that hardware in that space.
Yeah.
So the other thing that is getting done more and more commonly is people still like the wood look of above, but they also want to tie in some metal. And so we're doing more and more metal posts, 6x6 metal post or something like that. So we've got a project here that's coming up that they wanted to come in and build some swings and have a rainfall coming out of it. And so one of the things that was decided is we're doing an 8x8 steel post so we could run the water supply up inside that post so we didn't have to strap it to the outside of something.
Yeah, it makes it look a lot cleaner.
Yeah. So are there other things to think about on the top? So some people in some parts of the country are going to use a 2x2 material and space those with a 2-inch gap. Some parts of the country use a 2x4 material and put a 4-inch gap or a 2-inch gap. So it's done a little bit differently. But one thing that I did in Northern California that was really cool is we put pipes up there instead of wood on the very top, and they were painted black, and it was for solar heating.
Oh, okay.
And so we were able to put the pipe up there, and that was the way you were able to heat the pool. Now, that particular subdivision way back in the day wouldn't allow solar panels on the roof because it was against the HOA rules. Now, most states have made that illegal to say you can't do that in an HOA anymore.
Yeah.
And so, solar panels are much more prevalent than, back in the mid 80s when I was doing that type of work.
And you were in California at that time too.
I was in California.
Which is crazy because you think they would be at the forefront for solar power.
I think they were at the forefront later on, but in these early days in that particular subdivision, it was not legal. And in fact, I want to say in that subdivision, there became a lawsuit over the whole thing. And that probably is what helped start it because I worked right outside of the state capitol in Sacramento.
And I know you've talked about how California back then, they would have solar panels on the equipment. I know that's completely irrelevant, but I don't see that often in Texas. I see them on the roofs everywhere now, but not on the equipment pads.
Well, it's become a big deal because we have electric cars now. So, people.
And electric robots. Those are new. Yeah.
Robots?
Yeah. You ever see the movie I, Robot?
Yeah, I saw that movie.
Well, Tesla's got this thing called Optimus robots, and they pretty much look the same.
Okay.
It's uncanny. We're in weird times.
Oh, new times.
New times.
Yes, we are. So I know there's different manufacturers, and I know one of the ones that's at the top that a lot of people really like is Twin Eagles.
Correct.
And so walk me through about their product line and what do you like about it?
Twin Eagles is a buy once grill, and whenever you grab the handle on a Twin Eagles grill, you're going to know its difference the way it's spring-loaded lid. It's still really heavy. Very thick, robust, 304 marine grade stainless. They don't stop there. They polish all the appointments from the hood. There's ventilation on the back side of the grill so it doesn't overheat. All the backlit bezels that are LED blue don't do anything but support of what this grill can actually do. It cooks, and it cooks awesome. One thing that a lot of people don't really know about is the rotisserie and the value-added piece. It's got an interior wall chain-driven rotisserie. So if I were to take this particular spit rod and put it in this grill and turn it on, it'll hold up to 35, 40 pounds of meat. There's no counterbalance that's needed. It has a stowaway warming rack, and if I did a big, nice, juicy prime rib for Christmas, then I could pull this lid down and it acts as an oven environment, and you would only use the rear infrared burner on this grill. I've sold this grill for over 20 years, and I've never replaced a burner on this grill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot about their quality. So,
so when you build one in,
yes,
and an afterthought, and a lot of thing that we're seeing out there in the market is third-party OEM cabinetry. I'm going to mention names: Danver, NatureCast. These particular companies that need a combustion sleeve. This company offers an insulated jacket. When you put the grill inside of the jacket, you would think that it would compensate as far as airflow, but it doesn't. The air drafting runs right above the drip tray on this grill. So if it's in an insulated jacket or one of those third-party company cabinetries, it does not deprive it of air. It can breathe very, very well, and they've had some forethought on how to build this grill to do that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's a quality grill if you're looking at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hexagonal cooking grids, different pedigree than what anybody does in the industry. What does that do? More meat surface searing that's more equal, easier to clean. And then briquettes. Briquettes are found in your higher end grills. The briquettes evenly distribute the heat, they'll minimize flare-ups, and they'll promote flavor. Why should I buy a sear? You'll notice, what is a sear? So two versions. We'll ask your customers, do you want a sear mark or do you want crust on your filet, on that Wagyu filet? Well, if you like crust, sell the sear. It's going to give you that crust and caramelization, where the standard burner will give you more of a sear mark.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate the details.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so we started with your favorite, the arbor.
Yes.
So then we have the other two structures to really consider and look at on, what we might consider. So if we come in with a solid roof structure, this creates all kinds of questions on what's going to happen. So with a solid roof, the first thing that you have to understand is you have the roof itself and the dimensions for it, and then you have what a lot of people consider the structure, which is post to post. This is real important to understand in certain cities, because when it does come to lot coverage and permeability, is most cities work with the footprint of post to post, similar to wall with a house.
Okay.
They don't count the overhangs of the structure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, some cities are getting into, with lot permeability, we're actually counting the roof. We're not counting the walls, because the roof is what's capturing this rain.
Yeah.
And not allowing it to go on the ground. So it's important for you to understand which one's going to take place. The other thing that's come into play with some of these cities and setbacks and requirements is people have gotten more and more, creative in working with roof overhangs. So a typical roof overhang's a foot, at least here in Texas, where we're at now. In some architectural style homes, custom homes, we may have a 2-foot or a 3-foot overhang on the home itself. And so if you're doing a structure, you're going to make it architecturally similar. But some cities will only allow a certain size overhang.
Okay.
Because, again, if you're counting post to post, like we had one the other day, we met with the city, and this particular HOA only allowed 1,000 square feet of structure. Well, they wanted to do a garage and they wanted to do a shed roof structure. And so the shed roof was designed to be a 10 by 10 post to post. Well, they put a 2-foot overhang on both sides of it. So now it becomes a 14 by 14.
Yeah.
And so the city counted the roof, which the HOA was then going to not allow them to build their garage because they took up too much square footage with anyway. So we had to work with the city on that and come up with a creative solution. But overhangs become important when you're dealing with a solid roof.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about. So the first thing when you have a solid roof is when you walk into the space, is the ceiling flat like it is in this room here, or is it vaulted and follows the roof itself? So there's a lot of people that it's more cost effective to build a flat ceiling.
Okay.
Because now I don't have to worry about what the beams look like and the electrical looks like and all the stuff up there.
Yeah.
I can just put a flat ceiling in itself that's 9 foot tall and call it good. Although most clients don't want that. Most clients like the vaulted situation, which is more open.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to be vaulting it, the big discussion is, what is the material that's going to be on the ceiling going to be? Is it just plywood? Is it tongue and groove cedar? What is that finish? The other thing is, are there exposed beams that I see and the plywood or tongue and groove cedars on top of that? Or is the tongue and groove cedar below it and I don't see any beams? It's just flat and smooth. So those are two different applications. They cost different. And so it's something you need to think about and understand. Is this a exposed beam or is this a flat ceiling that is vaulted? And those are things that you need to think about. The other thing that comes into with the roof is what's on it. Is it a tile roof? Is it a steel roof? Is it comp shingles? So most HOAs say you have to match the house.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes the house will have multiple roof types on it. So therefore you have some flexibility of what you can do. The one thing, like I had a project a number of years ago and there was a steel roof feature in the front of the house. And so we used that for the roofing on the structure. And the city came back and said, no, it has to be clay tile roof because that's what's the predominant roof of the house. And so we had to change the structure, but the problem was the framing's different as well. When you do clay, there's a lot more load because the stuff's heavy. So you got to frame it totally different. So those are important things to understand of what's going to be done. And sometimes it's not the city. The city doesn't care what you put on. Sometimes it's the HOA that's the issue that you have to think about. So, so we have a roof. We know what roofing materials on it. We know what the ceiling looks like. Then we have all kinds of different pitches.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have a favorite one?
I think shed is one of my favorites for sure. It's very, just, I don't know if it's something I didn't really notice when I was younger. It just catches my eye now. So
it wasn't done as much when you were younger.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you didn't see it. It's done with a lot of modern architecture today.
Yeah.
And so you'll have a house that may have several different pitches on it, which makes it really interesting. And so it's a nice, simple, just sheds off one direction. So that's the simplest one to build. It's the most cost-effective one to build. So, but a lot of times what you want to do is match what's on the home.
Yeah.
And so you look at, does the house have, the gable where it's kind of like the teepee thing that you can look into and that comes down on two sides? Or is it a hip where it comes down on all four sides? And for you that are just listening, you don't get the cool visual effects of me doing that. we might actually include some pictures there so it would work better. But you have different style roofs. And so I'm a big fan of the hip roof because it gives me more protection.
Yeah.
So with a Your shed roof, it might be 12, 13 feet in the front and then just, 8 or 9 feet in the back. But, if you're looking, you want to look at where your prevailing weather comes from, especially in the wintertime, like rain and stuff like that. If your structure's facing the north or the east, then you're going to get a lot of weather into that structure here in Texas.
I'm curious, is the name shed roof because of a shed? Because it was easy to build, or is it because it sheds off one side? Because I don't think I've ever seen a shed with that kind of roof.
Actually, our shed has that kind of roof.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I always thought it was because they were on sheds. But
yeah, that would make
sense.
sense.
Now that you say it sheds off one side, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
It's probably because it's a shed.
Yeah. But with the gable, it's really kind of cool because I do a lot of gable roofs where I don't want to block view.
Yeah.
So like we've got a project right now, it's on the lake. And so as you look out from the house, I wanted you to be able to look through the structure and still see the lake, and the roof's not blocking it. And so, you got this visual tunnel through the roofings area.
It's a very good way to allure your eye too, because your eye catches that and it kind of just allures you because you see the structure, which is going to allure you in general, and then you see also what's behind it, which is cool.
Yeah, so I've done that with lakes and golf courses and other things. But sometimes you want like we did a shed roof just recently, the last photo shoot, and the whole thing was to block the neighbor.
Yeah.
So, because it went down low in the back, and you had this real nice open view into the space, which was great. It also faced the south, so you don't have a weather issue, but you do get a lot of sun in with that one. It doesn't provide as much shade as the hip would. So we got different style roofs. We've got different materials on the roofs. We have different materials on the ceiling. The posts are going to be basically the same. Now, one thing to think about, we talked about fireplaces last week.
Yes.
So when you put a fireplace in and you got a gable roof, if you do the fireplace 7 feet wide to get a nice sized TV, are you going to run that all the way up to the ceiling, which might be 20 some odd feet up?
Depends on the job.
Yeah. So, but that's a lot of times, it's something that a lot of people don't think of initially. They're like, oh, we want the chimney to go up about 8 or 9 feet and then taper down and be smaller. Well, you're putting it in the center of a gable that doesn't look real good.
No.
Versus on the side of the gable, not as big a deal. So it's just, all these things to think about as you're creating the space that works best for you.
So we covered cabanas and we covered arbors. So should we move on to louvered structures?
So the louvers are fun.
Yeah, they are.
They provide the ideal situation all the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to put a structure on the back because in the wintertime it's going to reduce the amount of sun in my house, and so the house is going to seem darker in the winter and dreary, and so I don't want to do that. Well, the louvered arbor, just open it up so you get more sun.
Yep.
So I'm not restricting the sun at all. Or, wow, I really, in the late fall, it's kind of chilly in the mornings. I'd like to sit out there in the sun instead of the shade. I can open it up and sit in whatever direction the sun's coming from. It's not blocked, and I can sit there in the sun. Versus, it's August and I want as much shade as possible. I can really get a lot of shade with that structure. More than 50%, like a typical arbor. I can get 90% if I want. Or, gee, it's raining and I can shut it. And I used to say it's mostly waterproof because I was like, there's no way this is going to be 100% waterproof.
Yeah.
But I've dealt with them for 12 years now. I've never had anybody tell me that it was not a waterproof situation. Now, I've used only the two brands that Trey mentioned earlier. That's an Equinox and an Apollo. And so that's been the case with those. Now, you may have worked with something else and had problems with that. So let me know. So you're strumming the microphone.
Strumming the mic. I will speak from experience because I was in the field on the back end stuff, so I would do a lot of punch out items. And with the Equinox in particular, there was times where maybe we would have an overlap of roofs, on installs. This isn't your job or anything like that. But we would have issues sometimes with like a small leak, or a homeowner was complaining about the drainage to the gutter systems. We haven't talked about gutters really. But they would come out and they would tinker with it and they would fix it. And if they didn't get it the first time, they always got it the second time. So amazing people to work with. I have to say that. But it's not 100% just from the get-go to the install. Installs are going to vary who's installing them and stuff like that.
So one thing that I thought of when I first saw that as a product is I was like, what happens when we get a hailstorm? Is it going to just beat this thing to death?
Yeah. And how big's the hail? Like, what was it, a year ago in Argyle, we got baseball size hail out of nowhere and destroyed everything. Right.
So, and I can say that the units that I used held up extremely well with hail.
Yeah.
Not to say that they weren't damaged at all, but there was minimal damage to them. And what I was explained when I first heard it is, well, if it totals a roof out, it might damage the structure as well.
That makes sense.
And that's what insurance is for.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, makes sense to me. The louvered structures are typically metal.
Yeah.
The louvers are metal, the posts are metal, the framing's metal. So it lends to the style that's been prevalent for quite a period of time of more of the modern clean lines to it. And it comes painted in a number of different colors. And so it is the least maintenance of any of the structures over a period of time.
Can you cantilever a louvered structure?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I've seen it on arbors and cabanas.
Yeah. So I've cantilevered an Equinox over it and put a rainfall into one as well.
That's cool.
So the one thing that you've got to think about with the structures is also how many posts are you going to have to support if you get greater than 20 feet.
Yeah.
You're going to have additional posts typically when you get into wood, unless you get into a steel beam to support your roof, which is totally doable, or a large laminate beam, which again is totally doable. But standard beams usually come about 20-foot length, and so then you're going to have a post in the middle. And with your louvered structures, they can go greater spans without a post in the middle. That's where I was going with that. So anyway.
That's good. No one wants a post in the middle. That's annoying.
Most people feel that's very annoying. So the other thing is a lot of times people are like, well, can you still have lights and ceiling fans in those? Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So that's all available to all these types of structures that we've talked about. In fact, I have not done a structure in a very long time that did not have plugs in it. Usually I'll set plugs high. It's really nice to have a plug that's on a switch that's up high so you can put, some lights up there.
Put some Christmas lights or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you have a plug that's up high, you may mount a TV.
Yeah.
You're going to want some plugs down low, but you're going to want to have those plugs not close to if there's water, to the water. So you meet the safety requirements. So you want to usually have those farther away from the pool. But ceiling fans all the time are installed to create some, air current underneath the space and help, keep things cooler in the summer. But and then definitely lights so we can enjoy the space in the evening time as well.
Oh, yeah. I think it might be a crime to sell someone a covered structure without lights or a fan, or even offer it at least.
Oh, well, we might get into that with true crime.
Might do that.
Yeah, have to add that to the list.
Mm-hmm.
So a louvered arbor gives you a lot of advantages to structures. It has some of the advantages of a standard arbor, but it does give you more protection and gives you flexibility of coverage.
Hey, so I'm wondering, have you ever done like a cabana, one of these structures, cabana, arbor, louvered roof? I guess you wouldn't be able to do a louvered roof with it, but like a 2-story style, 2 levels, I guess. You could walk up onto the roof and stargaze or something like that.
Yeah, you have to come in and pour lightweight concrete,
Okay.
similar to what we did on the project right now that we're building on the lake.
Oh, really? Okay.
So you have to come in with a beam structure, lightweight concrete on the top, and then you come in with masonry on the top of that.
Yeah.
And if it's just you have to figure out how the ceiling is going to be addressed. But yes, that is possible. I've never built a roof on the upper one.
Yeah.
Just in my experience, that hasn't come into play. No, that's not true. The Hunter project, we did a 2-story cabana.
Okay.
And the bottom floor was all, well, Klein's too, was all for equipment. And then the upper story was for functional, and it was covered with a roof. Yeah, it's something that can be done. The one thing you have to be real careful with is certain HOAs won't allow it. Okay. Even though a city may allow it, that's going to be the problem in some places is HOAs. So you just got to make sure what's possible or not.
That's probably because it's so tall that it pops up over the fence and becomes like a eyesore to the neighbors. It's like, I don't want to look at their structure.
Well, and lack of privacy as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other particular things that you can think of in regards to the structures?
I would say something that's often pops up is when we meet with customers, they are typically wanting to put these structures like add-ons to their house, like put it right on the side. So with all these structures, is it ideal to chip away the house a little bit and beam into the house? Or is there a certain one that might be a little bit more easier, a little bit flexible where you're not, puncturing a hole into the house?
So again, it goes back to codes.
Okay.
Because case example in Trophy Club, I don't know if this is a current code, but it used to be, is if I attach the structure to the house, it now became part of the house and it had to have the building line setbacks. But if it was detached in Trophy Club meant it just wasn't a tie. So I would literally set a post right next to the house.
Half inch away,
and now it's detached. Now,
yeah.
Colleyville, on the other hand,
They're different.
Would say, well, if you're within 10 feet, you're attached.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter,
They have an invisible bridge going from one roof to the other.
And where it goes with some cities, it's fire code.
Okay, that makes more sense, yeah.
So if I've got one structure that's on fire and it's like right literally next to it, then it's going to catch on fire too. And if you take it all the way to the edge, then you're right next to the neighbor's house, it's catching on fire too. So that's where the logic comes in.
There's a little bit of logic there,
There's a little bit of logic, although sometimes you wonder if there's logic at all when it comes to dealing with cities.
Yeah.
So the other thing that comes in is a lot of times when I'm doing a structure, especially an arbor, I want it to look like it's integral. And so, yes, I will tear out, instead of adding a post up against the house, I'm going to tear out a section of the brick and attach that beam into the frame of the house and then re-brick around it. So now it looks like it was always intended to be there. I did a project down in Arlington a number of years ago, and I said there were no posts.
What?
It was a C-shaped house.
Okay. Oh, wow.
The arbor was in the middle.
That's cool.
And I ran the beams on both sides into the brick.
Yeah.
And so we had to tear the brick out. You had to get the angle just right to spin these things in here. So we had to take out a little more brick than we typically do because we had to rotate it in. And we set the 2 beams and then we bricked in around them. And the city was having a coronary about how in the world I was building this structure without posts. And so finally I said, can somebody meet me on site?
Yeah.
Because I sent drawings, I sent videos, I sent all kinds of stuff. They didn't get it. So and the inspector was like, oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, that'll work. That's fine. So it looked like it was part of the house initially. Now, when you're doing a structure and you're attaching a roof to an existing home, one of the things you want to do is make it look like it belonged there in the first place.
Yeah.
So you don't want to come off the existing house and start the structure and have it, gable back or hip back to the ridge of that looks real added on. There are people that do it. There are people that do it because it's cost effective, because the other solution is you're going to put a new ridge on and run all the way back to the house, which means you're going to have to tear up some of the existing roofing, and you're going to have a lot more roofing that's going to go in, but then it looks like it was meant to be there in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's something real important to discuss on if you're attaching to a home, because that gets into a lot bigger structural problem, or not problem, but adventure.
Yeah.
And what you're building, especially if the roof has got a really steep pitch on it. That brings the ridge up really high, and then it has to run back to the house. Like I had one a number of years ago, and the roof ended up close to, I want to say 25 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
And so for us to cantilever back into the house, and then it took out a whole huge section of the roof on the house that we had to, and it looks beautiful. It looks like it was always meant to be there.
Yeah.
But it was very costly because it was not estimated properly. And so I got to do that roof for pretty much free. Anyway, so it's just something that's important to discuss. And that's a place where three-dimensional modeling becomes very helpful for people to understand what they're getting.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing you want to be real careful about is if you weren't intending on doing something, just throwing something in so it looks pretty, and then, coming back later on and saying, well, that's not what we were going to do. That's bait and switch, which is not a very good thing to do, because people get real upset about that. So,
yeah. Yeah, don't do that.
So attaching to the home is done very commonly because, basically we're going to make, the outdoor and indoor transition there. But you have to understand what are going to be the setback requirements. Because, on your piece of property, typically you have a building line, and that building line is in the front, usually 25 feet. Sometimes on the side, it's 10 feet, 5 feet. And then on the back, a lot of times the building line's not on any of the documentation. You still have a building line.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's very similar to what the front is. And so if you assume, I can come in and do this structure, but the building line kicks back 25 feet, well, then you may not be able to do that structure. So if you detach it and put the pool first and then the structures towards the back, sometimes the setback isn't 25 feet, it's 5. Some cities it's 3.
Oh, wow.
Dallas, there were areas where there was no setback, and you go into the older areas and literally the building's built on the property line.
Yeah.
So it's just, you have to be aware of what's going to be, because sometimes you're like, well, if you do it this way, this is all we've got left to do a pool, and it can only be so big, versus if I flip it, the pool can be bigger, the structure can be bigger, and we can create more things, but it's not that inside outside transition that a lot of people are looking for. Is it a crime to drive a dump truck on the driveway?
I think, because majority of the time I would say that there's a high percentage chance that driveway is going to crack. Now, there's been a lot of jobs where access is limited and the homeowner's been briefed on that chance of happening, and they don't even care. They're like, dude, just get the job done. But I would assume, yes, it is a crime, because if you break someone's driveway and they didn't know that's a possibility, that's kind of messed up.
And it's usually in the small print of their contract that they're not liable for repairing that.
Yeah, the real small print where you need like 2 readers and a magnifying glass to read.
Although I've had clients that the driveway's already cracked to pieces.
Yeah.
And their comment is, you can't make it any worse. And my comment is, yes, I can.
Yeah, once it's already cracked, it can crumble a little bit more. It's
And
concrete.
now, if your comment is, we're planning on replacing that after this project, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll drive my dump truck on it all day long.
Yeah.
And usually it's not the driveway, it's the edges of the driveway that you have to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Because and dump trucks going in empty usually aren't a problem. It's the dump truck going out that's full that creates the problem. So what this all goes back to is make sure that you understand what's going to take place and what the penalties would be. So I would say that driving a dump truck on a driveway isn't necessarily a crime.
No.
If you've communicated the risk.
Yeah.
And you've also communicated that, this driveway is already, a dog, and so it's going to be replaced here. That's the next project that we've got going. But if it's a brand new driveway and this was not discussed, then there's probably going to be a problem.
I've seen some driveways with like turf accents like we do on our decks. So, those might be, you want to stay off of those. But I could definitely see a situation where it would be cheaper to have a dump truck just drive up on the driveway versus adding a bobcat, hauling back and forth. It reduces the amount of time and work needed. So it would be beneficial to some people that already have a cracked driveway or just don't care if their concrete, cracks, because it does that naturally over time.
Well, there's also one other thing I'm just going to bring in as an asterisk on this.
Okay.
Not a concrete drive, but an asphalt drive.
Oh, that's perfect then.
Okay.
It's already gravel.
No.
Asphalt. Yeah,
so an asphalt drive in the middle of the winter usually can handle quite a bit of load.
Okay.
But the asphalt drive in the middle of the summer, when it gets hot, the asphalt gets soft.
It would just move it around and sink.
It's going to tear it to pieces.
Yeah.
So we did a project last year. We had to drive a bobcat 400 feet because, of course, this was a country property and it was set way back off the road. And so we chose, because of the pasture land was all pipe fence and the terrain made it difficult to drive a dump truck through there in trees, that we just did a 400-foot bobcat shuttle over the asphalt drive.
Yeah.
So just be cautious about driveways and the results that you might get with heavy equipment going over it. Typically, a bobcat being rubber tired isn't going to create a problem, but a fully loaded dump truck will usually create a problem. We talked about lights.
Yes.
But there's a couple other things that become real important to a lot of people with structures, and that's screens.
Oh, 100%. Actually, someone mentioned that today when I was at their house.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to screen the windows off because they have like a vantage point that looks right directly into their backyard.
So with a screen, there's 3 reasons people do screens. Okay. One is I want a screen to protect me from bugs.
Yes.
So
I've heard that before, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
well, if you keep your screens down, it works.
Yeah, but at night, it does work, yes. They keep them out, but they gather right on that screen.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely sometimes they're like, trying to get to you.
So when you do go outside,
They
you get ambushed.
jump you and suck your blood.
Yeah.
So, and I tell people a lot of times, if you're looking for screens just to protect you from bugs, we've got other solutions you may want to consider.
Yeah.
That may be a good alternative for you. So,
But if you're, staying just on that covered patio area, and you have it's screened off and you're not going to the pool or the spa or anything, you just want to watch the game outside, enjoy the breeze, it's a great option.
yeah. So I have a client, and they had 3 screen sections. So, I mean, they probably had 800 square feet of space that they lived on that back porch.
Yeah.
I mean, they had screens. Now, the other thing that screens can help you with is protect you from the wind.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are like, I want to drop the screens in the fall and I want to turn my heaters on and I want to live out in that space.
Okay.
Now, one thing you have to be careful if you do that. If you have a gas heater,
Ooh, yeah.
you got carbon monoxide.
Yeah, that's not good.
Okay, so you may want to not, you may want to look at what's recommended from a safety standpoint if you're using those two things together.
We could do an electric heater instead.
You can do an electric heater instead. Yeah. So now heaters, that was the next thing we was going to talk about. But so the other thing with screens is sometimes people like them for privacy.
Yes.
And so we want to use the screen to give me privacy between me and a neighbor, that type of situation. So that can be very helpful. Although, you can also create some really cool outdoor curtains. I've done those on structures before as well that, can be open and shut. So that can add a lot of cool color and, the cloth and that type of thing can be really neat. But especially if you got all three of them, I need privacy, I need protection from bugs, and I want to stay, create a warmer space and protected from the wind. Then screens are awesome.
They're great for shade too.
Yes,
in the summer.
So with yes, so they'll create shade as well as protect you from the wind. So they're basically creating somewhat of a barrier.
Yeah.
There. So those are reasons definitely to have screens, but you may also want to consider some other things. So like staying warm, a lot of people put in heaters in the ceiling. And one thing you have to think about is where that heater is and what type of heater it is and how far it'll put the heat out in a particular space. So there's some really cool ones that are out, not cool as in cold, but cool as in awesome. The Eclipse Bromic heater is a really awesome looking heater. So, and there's several other heaters to consider, but you have two choices. As you mentioned, you have got gas and electric.
Yes.
Electric has quite an electric draw on each of those.
Yeah, we talked about it before where you said you had to switch out the actual electric meter for the house or upgrade.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're 25 amps a piece. I've got 4 heaters, that's 100 amps. And, all of a sudden, I'm taking up a lot of space in a house. Like we were working on that big project just here recently, and there was discussion. We were going to have to redo, not just a simple electric, but that was a massive home electric situation. But
yeah, because
we were using electric heaters. And so they decided not that important. And so it saved tens of thousands of dollars. But gas heaters are also something you may want to use that could, help. And if you're using gas heaters, and you want to maybe look at gas lights out on the structure as well, which can look really cool from a visual standpoint in the evening. So the other thing is when you have your structure, what's your flooring going to be in that particular space.
Okay.
And most of the time, people are going to look at trying to extend the home surface to make it look good, or we're going to extend the pool surface so it looks good as well.
You're going to extend the deck material you have around the pool into there.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot. So sometimes they don't match it up because they want a cooler surface, and maybe the surface they have inside the home isn't, naturally cool with the sun, heating it up and stuff like that. So they use something different.
The other thing that you got to be real careful about extending the material from inside out is it, frost proof?
Yeah.
Will survive and not be damaged, and also traction, especially if you're using water features in pools, that you want to be something that's not going to be real slippery. But also, yes, porcelain tiles look great inside the house.
Yep.
And they will fry your feet outside in the full sun, in the Sun Belt area, at least.
Yeah. Down here in Texas, they will.
So you're going to have to create some type of foundation to support this structure. And, the safest way to do that is to make sure that it is properly engineered. So different structures are going to require different situations. I would highly recommend having an engineered foundation versus just coming in and putting a couple of footings under each post and saying that's going to be good, especially with a solid roof, because a solid roof can twist over a period of time. And if it's twisting, because those footings are moving separately, then that's not a good situation. If it's an arbor, when there's some twisting, well, it's just some wood beams attached to each other, probably not too bad. But when you're dealing with ceiling materials and roofing materials and all those things, so when I do a cabana or ramada, I'm always doing an engineered perimeter beam similar to a house foundation. So if it works for the house, then it works for that structure, and I don't have any problems with, a deterioration over a period of time or movement. In fact, some structures, we're going to have piers under it, just like you would a home. We're going to have void cartons, what may be required because of bad soil situations. So an engineered foundation is a good thing for your structure. So we've covered, and then you come in and cover that with your concrete or masonry to match up with everything else. So that's where
put the deck material on top.
Right. You mentioned also in some parts of the country, they don't use wood.
I've been to a couple pool shows, and I've seen the arbors that are really artistic, and they have this pattern on a pergola or arbor, and it's cool because like the design that they have, and there's multiple designs, a lot of them, and they're really awesome. But when the sun moves, it changes the shadow of the roof, and it's really, really cool. And then it's also the abstract art style they do with the metal.
So they're typically metal screens that go on top of the arbor. You got to realize to come in and do a wood arbor in Phoenix is just a disaster, because the wood is going to get cooked and warped, and it's just not going to hold up really well. So if you look at like Phoenix, most of their structures are metal.
Okay.
And they'll have those metal screens up on top to provide shade.
Yeah.
And so they also do some really cool stuff there with cantilevering the roof. So there's only 2 posts to support the whole structure, and it cantilevers out, over the pool and that type of situation. So if you have to have a really good metal fabricator to do those type of things, and the footings that you need for the 2 posts are usually as deep as the structure is tall.
Okay.
So it's a big situation to work out.
Yeah. But it's really cool. I've seen the designs where they have like the tree, they have leaves and they have branches and stuff like that, and it's interesting.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned, and I forgot to come back to it earlier with a roof, is gutters.
Yeah, drainage is huge when it comes to rooftops. We've talked about that a bit.
Yeah, so the most annoying thing in the world is to walk outside of your house and you're walking into your covered structure to go cook, and it's raining and all the water is running off the roof and it pours onto you when you go out into that space.
Yeah.
So by just simply having gutters on it, there's a lot of advantages to it. One is you're not going to get as wet. The other thing is now you can capture that water and direct it to where it needs to go through a drain system underground, tying into the downspout as it comes off the gutter of the house. So there's just one thing you want to be aware of also is what's being done on the house. I mean, are they large copper gutters?
Yeah.
Or are they steel gutters? What size gutters are they? So you match up your structure similar in type and scale.
Yeah, it'd be a little jarring to have different colored gutters on your structure compared to your house.
Right.
Yeah, no. And also there's so many jobs that we've been on when we're like, it's a first appointment and we're measuring or whatever it is. And you'll see these gutters that are ran out like 2 feet past the end point. And it's like, if you would have just took it like 5 more feet that way, you could have caught it downhill and it would have been out of the walkway. You wouldn't have all this erosion going on in the area that they're trying to live in. Cause you're not going to go all the way to the back of the yard. You're usually going to play wherever it's closest to the porch. So yeah, just make sure they run the gutters where they should.
Well, just make sure you're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Is my gutters going all the way to the back of my property, to the front of my property, past the front gate? Where is it going?
It all varies.
10 feet?
Yeah.
You know. So, yes, it all varies. And there's costs associated with it. So, I mean, sometimes there's thousands of dollars in drainage work and the other guy's not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. So we haven't talked about walls, but there are some structures. Obviously, the pergola, I don't think there would be a wall on that, but there could be.
Yeah, done it.
Okay. So, yeah, let's get into the walls then.
So, I mean, you want a wall because you got to hang the TV somewhere, right?
Yeah, and maybe you want privacy from one angle as well.
Right. So I've done that on structures, all three of them, solid roofs, equinoxes, and arbors.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's the privacy issue that we're looking for. Or the other thing that I've done with several of them is there's a fireplace incorporated. And so
TV.
we want to come in and you just make that a full masonry wall. And sometimes the pool equipment ends back there.
Yep.
And so,
It's a great place to hide it.
A great place to hide it. It's close instead of somewhere else real far away. It shortens up our plumbing runs, and that may pay for the masonry that we have to put up.
Yeah.
So, but, it's nice to have protection, especially if it's a predominant wind issue coming in that you may have, as well as privacy with neighbors. But sometimes I've done full walls all the way to the ceiling. I've done several designs where we've stopped just short of the ceiling, and so there's like a post, steel post or a wood post connecting the wall to the ceiling, which is a cool architectural look. We did that with a swinging bed structure that we photographed earlier this year. So, but, and the masonry can be all different types of things to bring in some cool elements from a visual standpoint. Also, you can bring in some really neat lighting on walls as well. And then, of course, you've got place for TV or TVs.
Yeah.
So, or a nice bar. Lots of good advantages with having a wall. Now, some cities will get into different codes again if you have more than 50% enclosure. So anyway, there's all kinds of different things that you might get into considering with the walls, but you want to just basically check to see what the codes are for those situations. Again, the fall is a great time to be outside, and if you have some shelter, you can extend that long into the fall and even into the winter and back into the spring, and enjoy it all summer as well. So with proper shade, proper wind protection, proper lighting, I think, you're going to enjoy your outdoor living space a whole lot.
Yeah, it was fun talking about the different type of structures, putting them up against each other. There's a lot of stuff that we talked about that actually correlates with all of them because they're structures at the end of the day. And it was really cool to pick your brain on some of this stuff. And I hope you all enjoyed it.
So do you think they should vote on a winner?
Yeah. Vote on what's your favorite after hearing all the details. So that'd be actually really interesting to see.
Solid roof, louvered roof, arbor roof.
Yeah.
Winner.
Chicken dinner.
So one thing also that you may want to check out, we have an Instagram page for Farley Designs, and you may want to see some of the projects that we've highlighted in that. Also, we have a full YouTube channel for both Farley Designs as well as the Poolside Perspective Podcast. So those are both places you can check out and get additional information, hopefully help for you in your project to come up with what's going to be best for you. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.